Hi, and welcome back to the Switch Show. This is officially the month of April, so that means it is the start of our series that is going to run through the month of April. Okay, if this is your first time, welcome to the Switch Show. I am your host, Malik Chinoye Onwafo, and if you're returning, welcome back. Thank you for tuning in every other day to listen to us. So yeah, I said something at the end of the last episode I recorded, which was a farmer's tale, and I said something about starting a series on seasons. But the thing is, if you're anything like me and you grew up in Nigeria, we probably only had 2 seasons. I was about to ask what your favorite season is, so you can pause and think about what your favorite season is. But like I was saying, if you're anything like me and you grew up in Nigeria, we basically grew up knowing that there were 2 seasons: the rainy season and the dry season. That was pretty much it. But through movies, study, geography, and all that other stuff, you get to know that some countries experience 4 seasons, and those are the seasons I'm going to be considering. Although they're going to be hints, they're going to be, they're going to be examples from personal experiences of the seasons we see in Nigeria, which is the rainy and dry season. But yeah, for the sake of the podcast and for the sake of the analogy we're trying to drive, and the correlation we're trying to bring from these seasons into our everyday life, we're going to be considering the 4 seasons, which is spring, summer, autumn, and winter. So these 4 seasons happen throughout the year, from January to December, 365 or 366 days. We experience these seasons. So the first season we are going to be tackling, so to say, is spring. And it's so beautiful because this happens to be spring season wherever it is. I think in the US and in some parts of Europe it's spring, but like I said, in Nigeria, our weather is kind of having mood swings. It rains every other day, and there's a blistering wave of heat from the sun every other day. But yeah, let's just go into spring. So spring in climatology is the season of the year between winter and summer, during which temperatures gradually rise. In European languages, the concept of spring is associated with sowing crops. This season spells the end of hibernation and the start of production and reproduction. So there's something important to note, that spring comes right after winter. And we'll tackle winter. I don't want to give off too much about other seasons in another season's time, so let's allow spring enjoy its spotlight. But anyway, winter is a period where there's a lot of rest, dormancy. So right after all that rest, or right after all that inactivity, comes spring. And in spring, you usually that is when you see flowers bloom. Flowers are, in their prime. The daisies, the lilies, some other flowers I do not know their names. If you're familiar with horticulture or flowers, you can just insert it there. So in this season, you have a lot of growth. You have a lot of production. Flowers are more prominent in this season. Trees that have lost their leaves over the autumn and winter start producing leaves again. They start producing flowers, not necessarily fruits, but they start producing flowers. These flowers become more evident. And so what I want to do, what this series is focused on, as you guys walk with me, is trying to find a correlation between these seasons and our lives. So that in our lives, there are certain periods in our lives where we're at after a period of dormancy. That period where you rest, you're seeking knowledge. You're not really out and about. You're not really at your best, so to say. After your period of winter comes spring. This is where people come to you and there's this aura, there's this, feel around you that makes people understand that no, this dude, this girl is highly productive, or this person can give me what I want, this person is efficient. And it's not just a feeling, there's also some evidence. You don't just feel like a flower is growing or a flower is flowering. You actually see that flower, if that makes any sense. You actually see it, you know in its resplendence. It's actually very resplendent. It's bold, it's beautiful, the colors are lush, the colors are popping, the colors are evident. That's just summary of everything. So there's a season, our spring season, where more evident. We're out there. There is a restart of activity. There is more engagement. There is some form of evidence, and yeah, there is a knowing, not just to you but to other people. People see you and they understand that, okay, you are in a season in your life. They might not tell you verbatim, or they might not even understand the seasonal shifts in a person's life, but they can tell that at this point in your life you are really out and about. So there are three things I penned down that I would like us to consider. There are three concepts in spring. First one is planted, not buried. The second is taking flight. The third is sprout, shoot, root. So I'll take the first, planted, not buried. Just walk with me with this. So I was once listening to this preacher, Mike Todd. He talked about something when he was talking about being marked and everything, and he said there's that key point stuck out for me. He said you are planted, not buried. And I mentioned this in the Farmer's Tale. If you haven't listened, you can do well to go and listen. Crops, or let me not say crops, seeds are planted, and the impression you have while planting is that you expect something to come out of the ground. Whereas when you bury something, it spells the end of life, spells the end of any significant, dare I say, significant production or significant effect in the larger scheme of things. So when something is planted, there's an expectation, there's an expectancy. You have a farmland and you plant pumpkin seeds. You're expecting that by October, when you are marking your Halloween celebrations or something, for the people that do that stuff, you're expecting that by that time you would have pumpkins to carve. There's an expectation. But when you bury something, you don't expect it. Similar to how you see in movies where they put a body in the ground and then they start seeing ghosts and everything, and they are always scared. It's because there is no expectation. If the body was planted, and they see ghosts, they'll be like, yeah, we kind of expected that, so you're not really horrifying. So that is, there's an what's differentiates planting from burying is the expectation that is attached to it. And you can see this in our careers, in family, in our relationships. So in your career, there are times your spring season is a time where you're building knowledge. Aside you dispensing or dispersing the knowledge you've acquired while resting, you're also building knowledge. You are sowing. I read something that in European languages, the concept of spring is associated with sowing crops. So this is a period where you're not just blooming as a flower, but now, because you're not just a flower, but you're also an oak tree, you are bringing people are expecting that there's going to be some fruit, and we'll consider it when we're talking about summer. So this is a period where you are planting yourself, you're gaining expertise, you're developing yourself, increasing your communication skills, your hard and soft skills, you're like myself, that is in tune with computer science, you're trying to get a course, advance your knowledge of computer sciences, either the software side or the engineering side, which is the hardware. When it comes to family, this is a period, especially when kids are developing. This is a kids' developmental stage when they are infants, they are toddlers. You're teaching them life lessons and morals that will last them for their whole life. Believe it or not, majority of the principles that we find ourselves honing and holding on to are things that our parents established when our brains were not even fully developed. And sometimes we think that it's probably the experiences we met in secondary school, in primary school, or whatever level of education. But many a times, more often than not, these are the skills, these are the impressions that our parents have left on us. They leave a seemingly indelible mark on us that lasts for, it could even last for generations, if not curtailed. That's if they're negative. But if they're positive, it could spell for generations and the rest of it. In relationships, with your friends, your partner, whatever, this is a period where you are growing together. It's not all rainbows and unicorns every time. It's not all lush, a lot of romantic activities. There's a time where you have to take a step back to take 2 steps forward. Okay, so yeah, so let me just run through the remaining concepts I was trying to drive at. I said the next is taking flight, and I tagged taking flight from the bamboo. I talked about the bamboo in A Farmer's Tale. I said the bamboo culm takes 3 years to form under the ground, and in about 6 to 9 months, it shoots. So it shows that, let's say that 3 years is its winter season. That's its stage of dormancy. There's an external, or there's a, will I say, external dormancy, but internally it is building itself. For 3 years, it is building itself for it to just take flight in 9 months. That's to show you that there needs to be a level of preparation, there needs to be a level of intentionality and growth downward for you to grow upward. So just, you can quote me on that. You need to first grow downward before you grow upwards. Trees grow downwards first before they grow upwards, the roots. And that brings me to the third one, which is sprouts, shoots, and roots. So a sprout is when you see a sprout, something sprouting out of the ground, Well, I say direct definition of sprout, I'm not going to give a dictionary definition, is the springing up of a new life. When you see leaves coming out of the ground, something is germinating. You know that there is, you now have a heightened expectation. Let me put it that way. You have a heightened expectation. You know that something good is about to come out from there. But before that thing sprouts, as it sprouts, it has already built roots downwards. Like I quoted, you have to grow downwards first before you grow upwards. So it builds roots downwards. It gets grounded before it shoots. So when we talk about dormancy, being dormant does not mean you be inactive. It's looking like a paradoxical statement. Your season of dormancy, there's a visible outward appearance that you are out of the spotlight. But I was reading a book named Anonymous by Alicia Britt Cole, and she said something about winter. I said in the winter season, the leaves, now I'm going into winter, but trees shed their leaves to retain water. So that is what you should understand, that because you were dormant, coming into your spring season does not mean that there's a chaotic shift in systems. It only means that outwardly you were out of the spotlight, but now in your spring season, people are seeing you. Let's say you are in the spotlight, although a lot of people don't really like the word spotlight. But yeah, you are out there. It means you've been growing, you've been brooding. Just like mosquitoes would see a stagnant water and feast on it and nest on it. Sorry, they don't feast on it. They nest on it, lay their eggs, and their eggs come out of that stagnant water and still brood on that stagnant water. That is how it is. So it's a transition. It's not just a shift. All seasons are transitionary. That's what you should understand in this series. It's a transition. That's why I'm taking spring first, because it's kind of spring season in wherever it is. But in Nigeria, I don't think we really know what spring is. But flowers bloom in this season. But there's a mixture of rainfall and, like I said, a disastrous heat wave. But to sign off on this, I said in spring, the true beauty of the flowers are out on full display. During this period, their resplendence, distinct features, and dances in the wind are undeniable. So, as much as you would like to, how do I put this? You like to downplay what you're doing or your time of bloom. When you're in your spring season, it is undeniable. Now, for you to properly understand, you need to take a look at your life. Try and understand what season you're in. So a lot of people might be in their spring season now and listen to this, and it's very relatable. Some people might be in their summer season. Some people might be in the autumn. Some people might be in the winter. Relax. I got you. We're going to go across all 4 seasons. So just stick with me for the rest of the month of April, and I promise it to be worth your time. Even I, for one, I would say this is probably my autumn season, I would say. Because autumn is, I don't want to give too much away. Just stick around and you find out. So that brings us to the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it relates to you. If you feel like you are seeing a friend that this relates to, by all means share this with them. I took some suggestions. I ran a Google form with some of my friends, and some close acquaintances, to get their feedback on what we should bring. So we're trying to up the ante on the podcast and change the dynamics. Not really change the dynamics, but make little tweaks and improvements. So I'll be leaving a Q&A type thing on Spotify. Be sure to check it out and let me know what you like to hear in another podcast episode. That is after the month of April anyway. And I'll catch you on the next episode. Flip that switch and illuminate your world. God bless you.